Last year, it was announced that they were going to be working on a reboot of Babylon 5 for the CW. If that sounds like a train wreck waiting to happen, of course it's because it is. Nobody wants that. You know exactly what's going to happen when you get a CW treatment out of something, especially in modern 2022 times. Even though J. Michael Straczynski, the original creator, is involved, he's really not the same guy he was 30 years ago. He's been in this like cycle of woke nightmare like many other people in Hollywood ever since about 2014, 2015. He's really gone off the rails and not been able to produce much. I mean, if you look at his IMDb, which we'll do in a second, there's not a lot of credit to what he's been doing and all that. It's because he's just throwing a fit about Trump and LGBTs and all the other nonsense that all the wokeites do all the time. They can never work. Have you ever noticed that? But we'll get into this in a second. So I guess this is on life support now. Babylon 5, this reboot is looking like every other reboot and every other movie or TV extension that they've ever tried to get going off the ground with this. And it's about to go away again after this is probably the 10th time I've seen them get fans' hopes up about this. And we'll get into it in just a second. My name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator. I was very inspired by the original Babylon 5, which is excellent. Even though the guy turned into a woke nightmare in later years, really it is excellence in space opera, excellence in science fiction, and excellence in television programming. So I was inspired by that, and that's what actually got me into writing. So thank you, J. Michael Straczynski. I know you watched this. And he also radicalized me because J. Michael Straczynski was one of the first people to attack me over politics when I was a huge fan, really somebody who was super supportive of what was going on back then. And unfortunately, this is what Hollywood does when they learn how you vote and they learn what your religion is. They try to hate you and they try to get you destroyed. So that's it. I've been making my own books for a long time. It's definitely got that influence to it. The classics like Lensman, like Edgar Rice Burroughs, like Flash Gordon. I'm very much inspired by all that stuff, which is where Babylon 5 drew its source from. And you will love this. This is a 66-page graphic novel, and that link is in the description below if you want to support the channel and everything we do here. Appreciate you guys for doing so. All right. So as I mentioned, there was a Babylon 5 reboot that was promised last year, and now there's this campaign via Twitter. This is J. Michael Straczynski. In order to save that reboot, which has not even been made yet. Bad idea. If you're at that spot in terms of, trying to save your show that's not even greenlit or anything like that, it's not going to end well. And so I'm already going to predict, even though this hasn't been anywhere, that this show is going to get canned within the next month. And I think that it's going to be gone, which is probably for the good. You don't need a reboot, reimagining member berries of this show. You can just watch the actual show, and it stands the test of time pretty well. So here's what Straczynski says: "It's never been my way to ask Babylon 5 friends or followers for a solid on behalf of the show, because I feel my role and the role of the show to be in service to you, not the other way around. But tomorrow, for the first time in 22 years, I will ask," look at the ominous way of phrasing this, "the fate of Babylon 5's pilot may be decided by the end of next month. Though much of the CW was bought by this new media group," which is that whole Discovery Warner situation that's going on, "the decision also rests heavily with Warner Brothers TV. If the fans want to show their support for Babylon 5 and let them know you want this to happen, now is the time." They call it B5 on CW in 23 is their difficult hashtag to remember. And that's that. So as I said, I was not excited about this just because of the way that Straczynski's been over the last decade or so. I don't think he's the same writer he was, and I expect that we'd see a completely woke reboot with woke recastings and everything else that we see from Disney or these other channels regularly, and it will just, torpedo the show if it does come to fruition. And so really my thoughts are based on this, because the last thing Straczynski did, if you look at his IMDb, the last thing that he's really done, he hasn't done much of anything. It's been since 2015 to 2017 when he worked on Sense8 with the Wachowski brothers, sisters, whatever the hell they are these days. And he wanted to push a heavy gay trans agenda in this show. It was actually disturbing. The imagery, there was a sopping wet dildo that they shoved onto the screen after some weird transgender sex scene on there. It was gross pornography on every level. And the show actually culminated in some giant 8-way orgy with like trans and gay stuff going on all the way through this. So that's what Straczynski was writing last. He hasn't actually come out with anything since that, probably because most people turned away from that show with all that gross imagery that was being put on display there. Very odd stuff. And that's what I expect Babylon 5 to push into at this point, because these woke Hollywoodites, like they have these obsession with their like weird sex fetishes, and that's what ends up taking over everything because it's all they ever think about. So nothing in 5 years from Straczynski to really be right home about. When he really was doing a lot of stuff before all this, it was pretty interesting. But that's kind of how the woke goes. Once you start down that path, you're not working on anything except for the agenda going forward. So I'm kind of glad. I hope this dies on the vine. I really don't want to member Barry's Babylon 5 with a woke, diverse cast, and I don't think anybody else does either. All right. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.